like to call our meeting to order. We'd like to welcome you to our special call meeting for our capital improvement workshop. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to affirm our agenda.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move the board amend the executive session items on the agenda to add an item related to matters incidental to proposed contractual negotiations involving the potential purchase of real estate. All right, and then secondly, I would move the board amend the executive session items on the agenda to add an item for discussion concerning the placement of security devices within the district school campuses.
I have an amendment to the agenda. To have a second.
I'll second both amendments to the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. At this time, we'll have our discussion of our capital improvement. Mr. Martin.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in on not the regular scheduled meeting. So we're going to talk about our capital improvement plan. So first, just a little definition of what a capital improvement plan is. It's a short-term, relatively short-term plan where you just list your capital needs, building improvements, new buildings, equipment purchases, really just any large projects. You prioritize and just figure out a way how you're going to pay for it. It's a way to stay focused and ensure that things that you guys want to have done can actually get done. This is something that we'll hopefully meet and update every single year to reprioritize and freshen up the list. And then it just lets the public know, so it's a little more transparent and lets us know what we're all thinking and working towards. So our methodology, what we've done is, we started, Dr. Ward and Mrs. Anderson worked to put the plan together last year, so that was sort of the foundation that we started with. I met with the superintendent, all the directors, maintenance director, technology, principals, superintendent, pretty much got the whole brain trust together in some form or fashion to get their opinions on what we thought needed to be done, what was high priority. And then we just sort of slotted things in based on what we could finance and what we could pay for, which leads into our payment options. For big capital projects, school districts really have two methods of funding them. One is through bond financing, issue general obligation bonds, which just means that you issue bonds, you tell the county assesses a debt millage so that they can collect enough taxes so you can pay off the bonds. Currently, our debt millage is 46 mils, which generates about 2.5 million. About 1.65 million of that goes to principal and interest for our, it originated as the high school, middle school building. We refinanced it a few years back, so that runs through 2034. So within, you do the math, that leaves us 850,000 from what our tax collections are and what our payments are. So we could issue bonds up to 850,000 every single year, earmarked for capital projects. And then the second way you can fund things is just through your capital projects fund, which is not, there's no tax revenue in the capital projects fund. You really just transfer money from your general fund into your capital projects fund. And then it's earmarked for the same types of projects that your bond financing is. Our rough estimate right now, our general fund balance is about 7.5 million. You have to maintain 2 months of expenditures in your fund balance. At least that's the recommendation. If you go below that, you start getting put on watch lists with the state. So let's avoid that. And so 2 months expenditures for us is about 2.5 million. So we got, as it stands now, rough estimate about 5 million in excess that we could play with. So the two major projects we've identified, sort of overarching projects, more long-term projects, things that we should devote most of our attention to, we think, are the old high school. We've set a timeline on that of 1 to 3, 1 to 5 years. know we've talked about this a lot, had a lot of meetings. I'm not exactly sure where it is, where we stand with it currently, so, you know, really we need to decide, are we gonna demolish it and build something new? Are we gonna try to renovate it? The estimated demolition cost from about a year ago, from Dr. Ward got the estimate was about $1 million to demolish, which our 2021 short-term bond issuance netted us a little over $1 million, and that was earmarked for the old high school project. So we have $1 million on hand already. We had some drawings done up of the field house, which was about $6 to $7 million, and then the renovation estimate we had is about $3.5 million. So that's sort of where we stand now. And then so we just need to really figure out what we want to do, what we think is best for the community. We have some additional funding options. There's a community development block grant through the Upper Savannah Council of Governments that could help with demolition. It's a max of $450,000. And then there's potential to be added to the county's capital project sales tax. But that's going to require an application, and they're not taking new applications until fall. Well, the process starts spring of next year, but then it won't be until fall of next year. So there's, and same with the Upper Savannah grant, it won't be until next year sometime too. So there's a time delay on both of those options. And then our second major project is this building right here, the primary school. And we've put a timeline on that about 7 to 10 years. And our maintenance department feels pretty confident that they can keep this building up and running for 10 years with new roofs, some new heating and air systems. So barring anything catastrophic, we think we can keep this building up and running in the short term. But you know, it is an old building and it's patchwork. Some buildings are older than others. And I think it's time that we start sort of making some ideas or plans toward, do we combine the school, do we build new schools, do we upgrade this building? And then this is the project where there's potential for some funding from the state budget based on a special proviso. Saluda is my example, got $38 million. I could have updated it like yesterday or 2 days ago with Abbeville. That's the same type of money that they got. But it's based on poverty. I think we're a little further down the list than Abbeville and Saluda, so the timeline there is a bit fuzzy too, because the state would have to continue to allocate money for that special proviso going forward. So, I mean, it's politics. It could drastically change in a year what they want to do. So those, like I said, those are the two big projects we want to focus on. But then there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be done to keep our buildings updated, keep things running smoothly and operating. So along with those two large projects, we've identified a variety of other projects, things that need to be done to improve safety, general operations, comfort, you know, HVAC replacement, stuff like that, that we can, while we're still working on those two big projects, we can squeeze in, you know, some of these more maintenance projects around those bigger ones. So before I get to the details of the list, the sort of the proposed payment plan, how we're going to finance all this, we sort of have the idea that we'll use the bond issuances for building improvements, mainly building improvements, some equipment purchases. So we'll issue the bonds each year up to $850,000 and use that money to achieve, you know, complete some projects on the list. A hypothetical that we could do, let's say the old high school project costs $7 million. We have the $1 million on hand I talked about. We could transfer $1 million from the fund balance, and then we could issue bonds of $5 million payable over 10 years. So then that $500,000 yearly payment fits under that $850 umbrella and leaves us $350,000 still to do some of the smaller projects. And then our capital projects money, will utilize some of that as well. Just for some of the more recurring transactions we need to do. Every kid's got a Chromebook. Technology is obsolete after 5 years, so we'll constantly have to update those things. HVAC replacements as they go out. We'll need money on hand to fix them. And maybe classroom furniture needs as they arise. So these are the project lists that we've identified. Security fence around the elementary school. David Rourke, our maintenance director, pulled a list from 2015 that he had, and security fence around the elementary school was on it. So this is a project that's been needed to be done for a long time, so that's why it's, I didn't number these, but that is one of our highest priorities. A new playground at the primary school. So the issue with the primary school, if in 10 years we're going to move out of this building, we've got to start weighing the odds of repair versus replace. So we've sort of said things that need to be done at the primary school, we need to do them early so that we can get as much use out of them in that time frame before we move out. So primary school needs new mulch, it needs a new border. Kelly Graham said the kids get really hot out there in the summer, so she wants a shade. All that stuff's going to cost like 20 grand. So rather than putting a 20 grand Band-Aid over it and having to replace it in 4 years, just go ahead and bite the bullet now and replace the playground. It's not level either, so we could grade it out. We can make it safer. I think David lowered the handlebars, or has lowered the handlebars because kids fall, so it's potentially a safety hazard. Canopies in front of the elementary school for drop-off. There's no sort of protection for teachers if it's raining. They get rained on during drop-off and picked up. The sidewalk's really long, so if you have canopies over half the sidewalk, you can restrict drop-off to just where the canopy starts. So then you got less kids, with cars running, safety issue again. Security systems for primary and elementary school, the same ones we put in a couple years ago at the complex. Get them here. That would be a really costly expense, especially for the primary school, if we're going to move out, but that's one of those things if you don't have it and you need it, you're going to really feel it. Exactly. And then a couple smaller things. The wall that, separates the cafeteria, Dan?
Yes.
It needs some work done on it, and then we need some new maintenance trucks. So I've got one here and then one next year. So the total cost estimate of all these is $790,000. That fits in with that $850. I didn't include any payments for the old high school project if we went that route, because I don't think we're quite there yet. It's going to take us some time to get things in order for that. So we could do all this within the bond issuance if we go that route. And then just your next project list, it's pretty self-explanatory. Or based on what you can read. Retop hallways at the elementary school, paint some classrooms. The middle school wants an outdoor classroom. The parking lot at the middle school, high school in the front is a nightmare. I don't know if you've ever driven around there. But Mr. Rice and Mr. Schoolfield have some ideas on ways to take out some trees, rearrange the parking lot, open up, get a lot more spots and spaces. Another maintenance truck. Sprinkler system at the stadium's going out according to our athletic director. So.
Can you buy a maintenance truck for 20 grand?
With our state contract, last one we bought 14.
Really?
Yeah, state contract's pretty. You guys approved a vehicle a few months ago.
Yeah.
So we got like a brand new Ford Explorer for like $32,000. So state contract's pretty good.
I'm just saying that, I just bought a new truck and I don't know that you can get a 3/4 ton or,
The only thing we get is regular cab, long bed, 2-wheel drive. In fact, the ones we driving now, I think we paid $11,000 for. But
well, kudos, because I'm happy for you.
So now that the truck might be a little underestimated, but some of these other items are overestimated. So we've got some cushion to play with. And so again, just to point out, these are all, they fit under that $350,000 estimate there. And then as we get further on, these are things that we had on the list from last year that I've just included this year. It's hard to know what your needs are going to be in a couple of years, but resurfacing parking lot, new playground at the elementary school, lights behind the elementary school, outdoor classroom at the high school, security system at the district office, and then from there, softball, baseball locker rooms and batting cages, and concession stand, softball, baseball field. So that's sort of where we've fallen on our project list as of now. Again, we'll meet again sometime next year, maybe in July, sometime in the summer, to reevaluate this and see where we stand. So then our next steps from here, if we decide to issue bonds to do these projects, I've already been in discussion with our bond attorney, Theo DeBose, and our bond advisor, Mike Gallagher. They've got a shell of the paperwork we'll need for the resolution. They can have it ready by the next board meeting if we want to go that route. Once we get that passed, we can start procuring the procurement process to get these projects done. And then ultimately, really, just decide on the fate of the old high school. You guys think we need to demolish and build a new building? You want to try to renovate it? I'm sure you guys are talking to the community with different people. So that's really the big thing is we need to pick up where we left off, or start totally fresh on that high school project and get it done. And then start thinking about the primary school also. So I'll open it up from there to suggestions, questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, whatever you guys got.
Has there been any thoughts on primary school location?
There's a lot of thoughts on the primary school location. One suggestion is the elementary school was built in such a way, Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, built in such a way where you could add classrooms on either side, so we could combine them at the elementary school. Potential issue there is the elementary school is already 20 years old. So one of the issues with this building is it's patchwork. Some's 150 years old, some's 80 years old. Those are not exact numbers.
You're not far off.
So then the question is do you really want to build on a 20-year-old building? We could do some things with the old high school. If we build a field house, we could sort of start, working on that land out there to build a new school, whether that be a primary school, whether that be using the high school over here, and then putting elementary, middle, and primary, elementary, and middle all at the complex, and just shrinking it down to 2 buildings. There's talks of building a new primary school on the land behind the elementary school. I mean, there's people have a lot of ideas. So it's just a matter of honing in on the best option.
So we have options other than purchasing real estate to put it on.
Yeah, we have land. There's enough land at the elementary school. I don't know the exact acreage. I don't know if Charlene or Kathy or anybody does.
High school has almost 100.
Yeah, high school has a ton of land. I don't know. It'll be a question on how usable some of the land is with hills and trees. It might be a lot of tree removal and grading and all of that. It might not be cost effective, but we have plenty of land already at the district, but we shouldn't have to buy more real estate.
I know we've been kicking the can down the road a long time on this old high school. And we've been talking and talking and talking and talking. I think it's time that we make a decision and go with it. And it's an eyesore. I graduated from that school, so it means a little bit to me, but it's time. An empty building ain't no service any purposes, so I think we need to make a decision. I know Dr. Green and I served on the ad hoc committee to try to renovate it. If that's what we can do, that'd be great, especially compared to the figures you just gave us. Cost-wise, instead of
potentially the cheaper option.
Right.
Now the issue with renovating is once you renovate it, you have to bring everything up to code. So there may be some hidden costs there with updating fire systems and all of that.
No, you talking about renovating the whole place or just the gyms?
I was thinking the gyms and the cafeteria area.
Yeah, I think there was
Just
some
those-
part they were gonna knock down,
Yeah.
it wasn't, but
Yeah.
it was gonna be less, instead of, and you also saved, instead of $1 million to destroy, to demolish it, you only were like, $250,000, you were knocking down part of it, so you
Yeah.
save that money, plus you save what you were gonna spend on building new versus on
Yeah.
building old.
And I think that was gonna be enough room for everybody involved,
Right.
wrestling.
The problem with the new building is it's a lot less square, I mean, that 6 or 7 million was, I don't know, half or a third the square feet.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
a
won't get it
third.
back once you tear it down, that's
Maybe a
for sure.
third the square feet, that they have now.
Yeah.
And everybody wants, well, the band wants their space, and the football wants their space, and volleyball wants their, and so, I mean, everybody was gonna be a lot tighter, on that new building, so it's not, for 6 or 7 million, it wasn't that you were getting the same size building you were getting now. You
Yeah.
were getting a lot less building. So that was part of our thought with the renovation aspect too, that it's a lower price, but you also got more for it.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to be happy with where they all are reasonably happy with where they are now, they just don't like the ceiling falling in and everything else, so.
It's distracting.
Few leaks here and there.
Yeah. It's easier to mop the floor when you already got.
That's exactly right.
If renovating is sort of the way we wanna go, or if we want, I'm sure we could hire, an architect, or, I'm sure there's options where we can get some professionals in to sort of help us get better cost estimates, and evaluate what's the best option. Don't know anything really about construction, so.
I think with so many unknowns, we know if we need to move forward, we just don't, we would like to know that it's agreeable that we move forward with. Let's see if we can manage that building, really pick up where the committee left off. That's what we're thinking. But let's start moving with that.
I mean, the numbers, I guess I remember when we were talking the new building, I don't think anyone, when we had the committee, I don't think anyone, whether it be band, football, volleyball, wrestling, no one felt that new building had enough. The plan, they didn't have enough for what they wanted, okay?
Right.
And there was gonna be a lot of overlap, wrestling was gonna be, there was apparently parts of the season when this was gonna be overlapping and you were, which is gonna be more animosity and that, who has this one, well, this has this one, whereas now people all seem pretty happy, with it. So, I think we talked about, but, well, could we make that building bigger, but we're already at 6 or 7 million in the way, at least the numbers, then, I don't know if you, but, it was just beyond what we could possibly imagine, doing. So then we talked about, could you get other kind of grants or other kind of funding, and that's when it about kind of fell,
And we also look at the possibility too, spending that kind of money and knowing we've got a building here that's gonna be needing some attention.
Right.
So, we didn't wanna go out there and tell the public, hey, we're gonna build this nice big field house, but we're gonna let our primary school go to pot. So we don't want that to happen either. So it would be my recommendation that we continue our work and go down the renovation.
I would agree. I think with the numbers you're seeing,
Yeah,
the numbers,
exactly.
just, the new building is not gonna have, I don't think it's gonna have what we want, it'll be brand new, but I think it's creating more problems down the road, and I don't think we can afford to build a building that would satisfy everybody. Need a motion, or what do you wanna do? What should we do?
No, I'll defer to Kath, she knows, do we need a motion? I don't think we really do, it's just more of a decision on.
Depends on how far you wanna make it. If you wanna make a motion,
I
that
think
means
we
we're
need to
ready
make
to
it clear
move.
so we can move.
That means a commitment,
Yeah,
a real
yeah.
commitment for you.
And I think that's what we need.
I think there is some, we're a small town, a lot of the parents went to school there, I think there, as you were saying, there is some value, I think, in that, yeah, this is where, grandpa played or whatever, and I've even thought, with some of those older gyms that, it'd be nice, you know, as we get them looking nicer, to get some old pictures of some of the old teams, you know, and, you know, maybe the 47 team when they won the whatever, and have that up and do, you know, and maybe really, you know, make it a, you know, bring in the past history of this place, you know, and the people that played here that are still in the community, whose kids and grandkids and that sort of thing are doing, you know.
And there's been a couple folks just vocal about wanting to tore down in the community, so.
So I don't know.
And from my perspective, I hate to close the door on not doing new. I think we don't have enough information yet, because you may get in a renovation piece and find out asbestos, you may find out there's no HVAC in there to rework it, remove walls, whatever, and it's just not up to code, up to speed. But what you're saying is correct. There's not an easy solution. If there was, y'all have already done that and moved forward. So we'd like to move forward, and we'd like to start looking at, like we're saying, look at the demolish and do we build new, but we've got to get more information and get to the point of where we can say, and we're going to need expert help with that. We're going to have to hire somebody. We're going to have to bring in an expert to find out, do we demolish this building? Can we keep it? Is it salvageable? Is part of it salvageable? We need to know that. There's a lot of unknowns. And yes, there's some people that we don't want to use this building as a way to undermine all the other things we're trying to do. If you go back to what you're saying, particularly if this primary school is going to be an issue, something.
When you all had your ad hoc committee, weren't you using architect?
Yeah, an architect came and looked at it.
We've got drawings in my office, yeah.
We still have an architect procured. He's still under our procurement. The only piece that you were missing was a construction manager list. And we have that ready to go out if you decide to go that way. We'd already had asbestos studies done, and we know what's in there. The architect knows what's in there. We kind of have an estimate on how much that's gonna cost. So we were at that point when Dr. Ward announced his retirement. And, that's kind of where it stopped, was right there. And so we have a lot of the pieces that you need. It's just gonna be a commitment as to which way you want to go.
And, you know, one of the pros of the construction manager at risk is they will help. You know, previously it was just us and the architect, so you know, architects are designers, you know, so they like to design things, make them look really nice and all that. Whereas a construction manager represents us, and he'll be able to identify, you know, well, we don't really need that. You know, he's more of an advocate, so you know, something an architect gets us might not. Some of it might be superfluous, whereas a construction manager will represent us.
He also prices the materials needed for the project. So he can tell you a good cost estimate on what it is to build now. That's another thing to consider. You know, you all know that the materials are more now than what they have been. Now, will they ever come back down? Who knows? It's been like that for several years. But he can give you the most up-to-date information about bricks and cement blocks and all kinds of things that you'll need.
So we have like Kathy mentioned, we have the RFQ for the construction manager mostly ready. We'll just have to update some of what we want them to do. I think the advice from the attorney, from Alex, was where we stood currently was a little too broad. We might not, you know, they have to give a guaranteed maximum price. So if you're really broad, they might not be able to do that. So I think it would be good. We might get more proposals, more bids, more bids if we had more of a pinpointed. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It could be still pretty general, but if we had more of a pinpoint idea, we might be able to get more bids on the job.
So then the next step would be to get the construction manager at risk, so that we can get the numbers, because the real estate market's starting to slip, and the housing is starting to slip, so I think the construction materials might start to slip, so I think it'd be a good idea to go ahead and procure that individual and get him working, or her working on it.
And then maybe that person can help direct us to say renovations out of question, or you're talking about half the money to replace the building plus renovate, and, cause we need all those facilities. We do need them.
Cause you will run into a lot of problems when you start renovating. A lot of stuff will show up that you really weren't ready for.
Yeah, when we were on that committee, we knew that it was asbestos and HVAC was two of the big issues. So we knew that up front.
Roofing, yeah.
Structural damage from when it was closed, or, you know, they brought somebody
Essentially,
in.
what they were describing to me is when they redid it, they would pretty much essentially take everything down to the concrete block wall.
Right.
The roof would be taken off, every floor would be taken off, the only thing that would be left when they remodeled it was just the concrete block wall.
So do we need to make a motion to procure a construction manager at risk? I make a motion that we procure a construction manager at risk for the high school project, the old high school project.
I have a motion and a second on the floor, all in favor? Aye. We'll put that in you guys' hand. Now, do we need to reform our committee, or our ad hoc committee, or?
I think we need to
Wait on it.
wait on what he says.
I would wait
Okay.
till we get the guy and
Right.
figure out what's
Any idea what,
feasible on this side.
how long that process will take?
You have to advertise it, you have to leave it open for a set period of time to get bids, and you have to evaluate the bids, and it's not a quick process. But we'll get that started. I mean, we've got the shell of it, so we'll just have to update it and post it and send it out.
Good.
Okay.
And then so do you guys you wanna do the bond issuance, the $850,000? Have that sort of slipped off. I can have the resolution paperwork, at the September board meeting. You guys just have to sign it and pass the resolution that we're gonna issue bonds not to exceed $850,000. And you have to issue bonds to utilize that cushion, because if you don't have debt to pay off, the county takes away the millage. So they only wanna assess tax for how much bonds you have to pay off. So if we don't use it, we'll lose it.
Sounds pretty simple then.
Okay,
I'll
exactly.
make a motion to do that then.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second on the floor to issue bonds. All in favor? Motion to do that.
I'll have that for you guys next week. That's all I got.
Any other question, guys, concerning capital improvements?
So where does, I mean, I know we're talking about construction manager at risk, but where does this leave us on these other projects you talked about?
Well, so we'll just go ahead, I mean, if there's some items on there that you guys wanna change out, we'll definitely take your input.
So the $850,000 that we're issuing, we'll then start to work on this in
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah, since we're not ready yet to start an old high school project, we'll just, all of that money cause it's just 1 year. So we'll get it if we sell in September, we'll get the money in October, and we'll get our tax revenue, and we'll pay it off in March. So, I mean, it's pretty quick. So we'll start, and we have 3 years to spend it. So, and we can amend that list, like if we get a year into it, something else pops up, you guys can make a motion to amend the list on the bond issuances, and we can go from there. So it's flexible, as long as you spend it within 3 years.
And what was some that you talked about, there would be, some kind of grant option or something like that for the new primary school? Is that something we need to be thinking about doing ahead, or something from the state?
So, yeah, the option for the new primary school is from the state. So there's really, they do that all in-house. They look at poverty rankings, need assessments, and they allocate it to you. There's really not much of an application you can. You
So
sort
that's
of
what
there.
we can't do until 2023.
No, so the stuff for 2023, that, so I talked to the county treasurer about the old high school project.
Right.
And, you know, Parks and Rec uses the building. Dr. Ward had told me that you had an idea to make it like a community area, so, you know, I said if we went that route, would the county be interested in funding some of it? And they said they would, potentially, as something for their capital project sales tax, the penny tax. But we'll have to apply for that and get approved, and then get put on the list, and then who knows, you know, we might not get the money for 6 years, maybe.
I mean, it seems like if it's money, I mean, it's, you
No, I
know,
mean,
somewhere else in our tax, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, you know, it's a route we need to apply for.
We have a good justification, because that is
Yeah.
one of the issues, the Parks and Rec use it, I mean, that means we can maybe get a outdoor area better, you know, around, I mean, I'm sure, even if we're already starting on the other part, I mean, I'm sure we can use it for something.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely an area that I would still plan on at least looking into.
I think we'll be to try to start working on those grants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
do we need to do a motion for that, for you to apply for that capital penny tax when it comes up, or?
I don't know if we have to do a motion for that, do we? I don't know. You can just,
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of keep it in the back of your mind, and like, okay,
I mean, the
Yeah.
let's try.
those grants are getting ready to be handed out now. That's the whole thing with Upper Savannah District.
yeah,
They're finalizing their stuff for this term.
yeah, so we have for the Upper Savannah grant and the capital project sales tax, the new application process is in the spring, and then they'll put you on the list in the fall, and then from there, you know, there are some potential issues with that, like I know Upper Savannah, you know, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, they usually go to counties. We're not a county government, so there could be a potential issue there with we might have to, you know, work out some sort of agreement where the county assumes the land and then we get the grant. The lady I spoke with at Upper Savannah said they're working to clarify that language because, you know, as a school district we are a piece of local government, of county government, but it's not the county. So that could be an issue, you know, with the capital project sales tax. Who knows what the counties, you know, their requests might not line up with ours, you know, so, but it's definitely an area that, you know, we'll apply for and see where it goes.
I will say that one thing I'd like to see move up is not necessarily locker rooms for baseball and softball, but at least a covered batting cage. I mean, you know, they're out in the elements, and those nets and things are starting to get pretty weathered.
Yeah, I mean, we can, cause, you know, I've actually ridden down to the Parks and Rec field and looked at their, covered batting cage and talked with T. Timmerman about that, so that's on the radar, so we can definitely try to squeeze that in somewhere.
Anything else?
All right, Mr. Mackey, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second. All in favor? All right, thank you guys for coming.